Hey guys, AG Sports, we're back. Football's here. We finally had a game. A couple things I want to go over today. I want to show you a little bit about the game and how I diagnosed it. Some things that were really important as far as like handicapping is concerned and play calling and things like that. I get it. It's a Hall of Fame game. It's preseason. Let's not take too much of this game. But there's some things that really stood out to me that I think even in a preseason game, and I know you're not trying to show everything, and the coaches are trying to keep everything close to the chest, but it's not looking good for a couple of things that I want to show you right now. I do have a pick for you for next week, the first preseason week, as well as some info on a week 2 pick that I'm looking at. I don't think the lines are out most places yet for week 2 right now, but it's something to just be aware of because it's going to get here before you know it. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to show you what I learned from last night. And the first thing that I learned, or I guess I should say I reacquainted myself with, is that Mike McCarthy is just not the answer at coach for the Cowboys. And Kellen Moore, I'm not sure if it's his doing, since he's the offensive coordinator, or if it's just kind of Mike McCarthy's fingerprints on this. But what I saw was a lot of running on first down for the Cowboys. And I get that they're trying to be a running team and that they like using Ezekiel Elliott, and that Mike McCarthy has always been a heavy running guy. But it's just not helping, and you keep putting yourself in negative game scripts and situations where the defense just knows what is coming. And so in this series that we're watching, I'm picking it up at the third down because that's where the highlight starts. But this was a run on first down. They got a little dump-off pass on second down, so now they're here with third and 4. And the first down run, as you can imagine, wasn't very successful. So third and 4, what do you think is coming? Most likely a pass, right? The Steelers, as you can tell here, are going to bring some heat, and they're all expecting a pass. They're trying to just kind of play these sticks here. Let's take a look at what happens. Really, nobody's surprised. Pass, short dump off. He caught it. They get the first down. But the Steelers played that pretty well. So what else did you notice in that play, though? There was no pre-snap motion. No pre-snap whatsoever. Pre-snap is free. It's easy. It doesn't take any talent, any skill. The pre-snap, if you're not familiar with it, is basically just taking one of these receivers and moving them, kind of putting them in motion before the ball snapped. And when you do that, it really helps your quarterback because he gets to see, okay, first of all, they're playing man defense because there's somebody following him. Secondly, which one is covering him? And lastly, what can I expect from my reads, knowing the routes? When are they going to be open? And now that I know that they're in man, I can kind of diagnose the situation a little bit better. But we're not seeing that. Now let's take a look at this third down. And as you can imagine, again, it was run on first down, very unproductive. And now we're stuck at 3rd and 7 where, yes, they're probably going to be passing again. And they come out with a set that tells you exactly that. There's no chance of running. It's going to be a passing play. Steelers are aware of it. They know what's coming. They put a little blitz on him. Doesn't get home. He gets the pass. They get the first and goal. Now, obviously, they already had their first down. Again, they started here at the 5. They got to the 4 with a run on first and goal. In the goal, like first and goal or in the red zone, especially in this like 10 zone, is really, you can run more. It's a more optimal to run because it's a short yardage kind of situation. But when you've been running on first down the whole game, the defense knows that that's what you're going to do, and they're playing that run, and you're not going to be very successful at it. So now you're at second and goal. Now they're still pretty sure you're going to end up having to pass or you're going to end up paying a run. But there's only one guy back here. And again, I don't believe we're going to see any pre-snap motion. So let's take a look at it. Nope, no pre-snap. Obviously not a run. There's no play action, which is exactly what you would want to use here. Using a play action to maybe make this linebacker bite down because they're going to respect the run still. It's second and goal. But nope, none of that. They know exactly what's coming now. And the linebacker knows, okay, I don't have anybody to worry about here. Just start looking at these receivers and playing the running back.
Second and goal.
As you can imagine, nobody's open. There was no pre-snap. There was no play action, no diversion whatsoever. And just bringing, their front 5 gets home. They get sacked. All right, so now what's going on? Now it's 3rd and goal. 3rd and goal, you're backed up. What the hell's going to happen? Obviously, it's a pass, right? Obviously. Again, now you really can't disguise it. Even if you had a running back here, even if you were going to try to run play action, they know you're not running it. Everybody in the stadium knows you're not running it. And now you got 5 guys out here. The Steelers are going to say, you know what, we're going to bring some heat on you. We're not giving you all day to let these guys get open. And we're going to give you a little bit of cushion on the coverage because we don't give a shit if you get something down here. So make it as difficult as possible for your quarterback. Let's try and roll out way too early, make a terrible pass, it gets broken. So yeah, terrible series, and the reason I'm showing this is because basically every series was the same. And you can say like, oh, they didn't have their starters in there, you know, Dak and Zeke weren't playing, and CD Lamb, all this. Okay, that's besides the point. You need good play calling. You need good coaching to be effective. I don't give a shit who's in there. I don't care if you're using a high school team. You need to have good coaching, or you're just not going to succeed. Not in the NFL. There's not one team in the NFL that you can look at and say, oh, well, that team doesn't have any talent. They're all talented. You need to have these plus EV play calls. So I'm really going to be fading the Cowboys for a big part of the season. Anytime they play a team that I think is half-ass decent and has a good coach, I'm fading them. The coaching is just going to get beat every single time they go out there. Let's look at the Steelers and see what they're going to do. They're already putting a guy in pre-snap or pre-snap motion. They already have somebody coming in. Let's take a look at what happens. Okay, he's moving over. Nobody's really going with him. They're just kind of sliding the defense here. So now their quarterback is aware it's zone. The running back is aware it's zone. Let's take a look.
Play at this level. Here he is again, right side.
It was a zone block scheme. He gets to the edge. He all knew. And the other thing is, if you notice, the pre-snap motion came this way. The linebackers moved this way, gave him that extra step to get around that corner. Now it's 3rd and 3. It's pretty manageable. They can still try to run if they want to, so the Cowboys should kind of respect that run. And they're giving a lot of cushion here on, what should be just a quick pass if they want to pass it.
For a guy like him, coming from a program,
they do go pass. And because of that cushion, we had a wide open receiver. Now, he didn't make the catch, but that was not any doing of the defense. So just like I said, these are just quick notes, guys. The Steelers, they're using pre-snap motion, they're using play action, they're getting a lot of passes on first down, they're moving the ball. The passing on first down is really the most EV thing you can do. Kind of keep those sticks moving, stay ahead of the sticks, don't get stuck at a 3rd and 7. Really helps your offense out a lot. And so the play calling is there, the diversions are there, everything is being optimized on the Steelers. And even though they don't have a great line, they're using all these other tactics to kind of cover that up and help their quarterback. And this isn't even Big Ben in here yet. This is freaking Mason Rudolph. So the Cowboys, even when Dak and Zeke get in there, the players on the Cowboys are talented enough to win in spite of coaching. But it's really going to be an uphill battle for them. And it's going to take a lot to win games when your coach is doing everything he can to put you behind. Those are my notes for the game last night. And my Week 2 NFL pick is going to involve the Steelers. One moment here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here we go. Okay, so Steelers, actually, so the first week against the Bills, I'm not touching them. I think the Steelers are going to be okay, but I'm not trying to get involved with that Bills game. I'm not ever trying to go against the Bills this year. The Raiders game, though, in Week 2, that's where it gets interesting for me. And if we come down here to see their line for that week, we have the Steelers minus 5.5. So that's the week at the over-under of 49. And they're at home, so they'll be in Pittsburgh. But really why I like this game so much is, one, the Steelers' weak point, at least from what I have seen and what I'm looking at on paper and critiquing and things like that, is really their offensive line. And the offensive line can really get exposed if you're going to bring a lot of pressure on them, especially up the middle. If you're going to be bringing A-gap blitzes and maybe stunting some linebackers in there, things like that. Especially with a guy like Ben, who's just not really mobile. If you're getting in his face, he might not go down right away because he's so huge, but he's not really escaping the pocket much. At least he shouldn't be. The Raiders, though, last year, and obviously this may change because of like everything else, we're going off of last year's stats. But last year, they only blitzed 20% of the time, which was one of the lowest in the NFL. Now, they really haven't made too many changes as far as like coaching staff is concerned on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, they had some draft picks and things like that, but the personnel, unless you have somebody who's just like a major player, for the most part, basically without somebody that's going to make a huge factor, you're really not going to change up your game plan or the way that you attack an offense unless you are really banking on somebody coming in and making a huge difference. If you draft or maybe get somebody in free agency that you think is going to be a huge impact player. So I don't see the Raiders really blitzing very heavily. And we'll know for sure week one, once we can see that. Not that they won't ever change or that they can't change based I don't think that they're going to be able to take advantage, or they're not going to see the weak spot in the Steelers and try to kind of like maximize their efforts on that. So aside from the Steelers being able to kind of cover up their deficiencies and having a better offense on paper, they also have really the better front line as far as defense is concerned, with the Steelers being able to attack that Raiders line and kind of limit Josh Jacobs. The Steelers have been, traditionally a decent front seven as far as defense is concerned, and they again haven't made too many moves, but they're getting back some guys that were either injured last year or maybe in and out of the lineup due to COVID or issues, and they're all healthy now. As of right now, there's not been any huge major injury news as far as our front seven is concerned, so they should be able to limit that run game. And if they can do that, and they're able to move the ball in offense, the Raiders are going to have a tough time keeping up with the Steelers. And not that they can't do it. I mean, it's the NFL, anything can happen. But just from that standpoint alone, the Steelers are really looking attractive for that week. But let's go one step further. There is a rest disadvantage for the Raiders that week. And so you might not think this is a huge deal. It's only week 2. These guys haven't been playing, like 12 weeks in a row. But week 1, the Raiders are actually the Monday night game against Baltimore. Now, it's in Vegas, but they're having to play Monday night. It's like 7 o'clock, whatever the time is, Central Time, so it's like 6 o'clock their time, I think. But either way, they're having to play Monday night, and then they're going to travel to Pittsburgh to play Sunday at noon. So not only is it one less day of rest because you had the game a day later, but now you're also being asked to play early that morning after a long travel. I mean, you're literally, or very close to going across the entire country for this game. So the Raiders, tough matchup week 1 against Baltimore, who honestly should blow the Raiders out of the water. I've already given you that pick. But I think that the Ravens are just going to manhandle the Raiders all over the place. And I could see that team being kind of sore and bruised and, maybe even having some like minor injuries just through the physicalness of the Ravens. But you are going from week 1 where you're not like in mid-season form yet. These guys aren't 100% at their, peak conditioning, and then turning around with a short time frame and then playing another tough game with the Steelers, where these guys are going to, from what they have on their roster, their coaching moves, Matt Canada with offensive coordinator, and then the receiving core, it looks to me like they're trying to put together a very quick offense. It might not be like a super, super deep downfield threat with any one player, but it looks like they're going to have a lot of just passes on first down, passes on third down to get more first downs, keeping those sticks moving, keeping guys like Claypool and Deontay Johnson out there, just kind of keep that defense honest. And then if you try to, back up and give them some cushion to stop those intermediate passes, now you're going to have to deal with Najee Harris because you just left him open and you're leaving lanes. So it's kind of a pick your poison with the Steelers, and I don't think the Raiders are going to be up to that task. So I don't know what that line is going to be by the time we actually get to week 2, depending on the outcome of week 1. Like I said, I think the Raiders are going to get beat, and so I could see that kind of moving the line towards the Steelers. But at the same time, the Steelers play the Bills week 1, and that could also move this line. So if the Steelers end up losing that game in a close one, it might not be a big deal. But if they end up losing to the Bills by like 14, or more, it might not be as bad as it looks. It could just be like a bad fumble, bad interception, bad field position, whatever. But if they lose by that much, the general public is going to say, well, the Steelers aren't that good. So, and there's a lot of rookies, or not a lot, but Najee's a rookie. They have a lot of offensive line issues, blah, blah, blah. And that could maybe kind of keep this line like even for us. And at the -5.5, I don't have a problem with it. I would really take this one up to like -6.5 and still be totally fine with laying a unit on it. So week 2, Steelers -5.5 at home against the Raiders. So that's my week 2 pick. Now, as far as the preseason, and this is maybe what you came here for, because preseason starts 1 week from now, and the first game I want to look at there is this Broncos-Vikings game. And so you may already be aware of this, especially if you've watched some other videos. But the Vikings and Mike Zimmer especially are really adamant about winning in the preseason. He will really go above and beyond as far as trying to get the win. Now, that's not to say that they're going to win every game, but the Broncos, on the other hand, really don't have that same mentality, and they don't necessarily need to. When you have guys like Cortland Sutton, who's still, kind of battling through an injury, Jerry Jeudy is entering his second year, but he's really like your receiving depth at this point, so you don't want to really risk him being out there too much. Melvin Gordon's a veteran, so you don't need to really put him out there. Javonte Williams, a running back, he's a rookie. I could definitely see him getting some time, but at this point, it seems like that's a true running back battle, and it's going to probably end up being a committee. One way or the other, whether it's 70-30 for Gordon or the other way. But either way, I don't see them really running him into the ground in the first week of preseason. So I don't think he's going to get a lot of work either. Really, the quarterbacks is probably the only one I can see getting a lot of time. And by quarterbacks, I mean Brett Rippon. Teddy Bridgewater, again, a veteran, backup or not, he doesn't need a lot of coaching at this point as far as, you know who he is. Broncos know who he is. We all know what we're getting out of him. Drew Lock is Drew Lock, and while maybe, yes, some preseason reps could help get him kind of seasoned a little bit, that's another guy where if he is their starter and that's who they're planning on going in with, they're not going to put him a lot of, they're not going to give him a lot of time in there. So the Broncos, I guess this is a long way of saying anybody that's worth anything on the Broncos should be sitting this game out because they don't have a lot of depth anywhere. And I think the preseason for them is really more of a chance to kind of they're truly just trying to get some scouting done. And they're going to be maybe doing some things on defense because they're usually putting an emphasis on their defense and just kind of letting the offense, run their regular 3 or 4 plays. Whereas the Vikings, I think, again, these guys are not going to be putting Dalvin Cook out there with 100 carries or anything like that. And Justin Jefferson probably isn't going to get a lot of playing time either. But I definitely see Mike Zimmer putting in his second team for the majority of the first and second quarter, and maybe even depending on what they're doing at halftime, maybe even keeping them in there to start the third before he really puts in all his rookies and scout team and stuff like that to close out the game. But I really think that if the Vikings aren't winning by halftime, he's gonna keep trying to win. And I don't know if you saw the way that the Cowboys game ended last night, but Mike McCarthy, while I don't like his coaching, he seems like a coach who actually wants to win these preseason games, and he's not just out there running the motions. I know some guys like Sean McVay, they have basically the whole game scripted, and regardless of where they're at and what the score is or what's going on, they're just sticking to their script. Even if they're down 21, they'll keep running the ball and doing whatever. Vikings are not like that. And so I totally see them winning this game and just kind of getting something to build off of. And I believe right now the line is Vikings -3 as long as it hasn't changed anymore. So I'd be totally fine with that for these preseason games because it is preseason. And yes, we're going a lot off of coaching here. And that's really all we're going off of is which coach is actually going to give a shit about this game. I'm only putting a half a unit on it. for the most part, I don't want to put more than that because this is, obviously anything can happen in any NFL game, but especially in preseason where the slightest little bump, bruise, anything is going to cause a coach to pull somebody out if it's not just a starter, but if it's somebody that they truly think is going to make the team and somebody that they have maybe taken a shine to in the training camp. They're not letting those guys sit out there. One little nick here or there, they're going to pull them out and be very cautious with them. So just put a half a unit on it. If you're not familiar with the word unit or what that means, totally fine. It's just your typical betting size. So whether that's, if you're somebody who likes to bet $10 a game or $100 a game or $1,000 a game, whatever the amount you bet per game is, that's your unit. One note on betting and unit sizes and all that kind of stuff. When we talk about betting a unit, I don't mean actually betting $10. I mean, you can, and some people do it that way. But what usually I'm referring to is you are betting whatever the amount needed to win that one unit. So if your unit size is $10 and you're betting on a game that's minus 110, then it would take $11 to win $10, which means that your unit size is 10 because you're trying to win $10, but you would need to bet $11. And if that odds go up, then obviously the amount you need to bet would go up, but the amount you win is the same because that's your unit. So quick tidbit there. But all right, guys, so I gave you my breakdown of last night's game, gave you a week 2 pick to keep an eye out for, and we gave you a preseason week 1 pick to start putting some money on now. So that game is coming up in 8 days. And it'll be at 3 p.m. as you're looking at on the screen, 3 p.m. on Saturday. Next Saturday, Vikings should be taking that one away. Keep your eyes open. Watch as much preseason as you can. Do some mock drafts, whatever you got to do to be familiar with it. The next video and what I've been working on is going to be handicapping like early season games without having a lot of screen time yet on this new season, and how Madden ratings play into that. So I'll show you that and how we build that algorithm. But be on the lookout for that. That should be out here in about a week or so. Thanks again. Have a great day.